Hello and welcome to GP Prague, back at it once again for day number 2. Riley Knight in the booth alongside the Pro Tour champion Szymon Gertzen. Szymon, good morning to you, my friend.
Morning, Riley.
Great to have you here as we get underway with two of the 9-0 players this morning. Niels Molle on the left-hand side of your screen versus Thomas Enevoldsen, the Danish master, on the right. Now, Thomas Enevoldsen on an absolute tear, playing Death and Taxes, a deck that he's intimately familiar with. He's won huge tournaments in the past with it as well.
Yes, he's I would say one of the best Death and Taxes, or most experienced Death and Taxes players in this room.
Yeah, absolutely. If not the world. We've got now Niels Molle on the other side, though. He's playing Omnitel, and we've got the deck lists in front of us. This is the version of the Sneak and Show deck, or the Show and Tell deck that plays Omniscience as well as Griselbrand and Emrakul.
Yes, but also Sneak Attack. So it's a hybrid between the classical Show and Tell Omniscience deck and the other version which plays Show and Tell and Sneak Attack, but not Omniscience.
Yeah, okay, so we've got a little bit of a hybrid going on here with Molle. Enevoldsen struggling for lands here, Szymon. No white sources and only a Rishadan Port to power that Ether Vial. He will still be putting creatures into play, though, you'd imagine. Yes,
that Rishadan Port also needs only one more land to get active, and with a Vial you do have a lot of virtual mana.
Mm-hmm. As we see right here with the Mother of Runes coming in thanks to that Ether Vial. Enevoldsen ticking up the Ether Vial as we continue. There's Ether Vial number 2 as well, so that could also help him get a bit more of a battlefield presence. In comes Mum. She's giving Molle just a little bit of a spanking here. And there's Ether Vial number 2. So Enevoldsen, yeah, as you say, still generating sort of a phantom mana somehow to get his creatures out.
Yes, and here we do see Thalia, so that might be a good way to stop Niels from doing things too quickly.
I really like it in response to that fetch there, because now it means that Molle can't brainstorm or anything else, whereas in response to a brainstorm obviously does nothing. So really tight timing there from Enevoldsen.
Yes, exactly at the right moment. Still attacking with Mother of Runes, not interested in using it as a protection method, knowing that his opponent will not try to interact with his creatures much anyway. The problem is with the lack of lands in his draw, he really needs to watch out for certain interactions.
Here's another brainstorm. That's costing Molle 2 mana here, and we see the difference, Szymon, between 1 and 2 mana in Legacy. I mean, it is double, obviously, but that difference is more pronounced, I think, in this format than anywhere else.
Yes, because cheap spells, if you tack on 1 extra mana onto cheap spells, it's more in relation to if you have a higher curve.
And especially considering the wide majority of the Legacy format probably costs 2 or fewer mana, that, Thalia is absolutely crippling against so many decks.
This matchup is, to me, one of the more fascinating in Legacy, because on the left side you have so much raw power. On the right side you have a game plan which relies on very a large amount of interlocking pieces, but still you have a certain approach to the game which leaves your opponent almost helpless. And even the deck that tries to do some of the most unfair things in Legacy, I think Show and Tell into Griselbrand or Sneak Attack into Emrakul certainly qualifies.
Yeah.
The white weenies with Thalia, with Caracas, with Phyrexian Revoker, they have so many tools to actually play against that, and we'll see even on 1 mana, even on 1 land with the active Ether Vials, Thomas Enevoldsen has a lot of play.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the way that this game has sort of developed for Molle and Enevoldsen here, with Enevoldsen doing a really good job of putting up a huge display here, as we see in comes Thalia and the Mother of Runes again, and no land. Thomas Enevoldsen not needing them. He's got another Mother of Runes in hand. It looks like a Phyrexian Revoker. So the power of the Revoker really, at instant speed, absolutely off the scale here.
Yes, the Revoker could be hugely relevant.
Here's Sneak Attack. That needs to be paid. Oh, we've got an Ancient Tomb, so it's cost 5. But look at this. In response, we're going to bring in the Phyrexian Revoker, and that's going to shut it off. So Molle tapping 5 mana to play a red do-nothing enchantment in the long history of red do-nothing enchantments.
Effectively, that's what happened. Yes, and now the Revoker already shuts down one of the combo pieces that Niels has available. I saw both Omniscience and Emrakul in his hand, so now he can think about multiple mines. He can try to Cunning Wish to deal with the Phyrexian Revoker. Maybe he has something that gets around the protection from Mother of Runes. There, for example, a spell with Split Second.
Yeah.
Or he has to find a show and tell.
Now, we've seen with these Cunning Wish decks, we've seen in the board of many of them things like Kozilek's Return, which again is a very neat answer to Mother of Runes like that. No such luck. Oh, no, sorry, I apologise. There is a Kozilek's Return in the board of Niels Molle, so that's going to be a nice little answer there, given that it gets around the protection. However, once again, constrained on mana and taking 6 a turn as well. So this clock is very, very quick.
And Thomas deciding that the damage is more important than the protection from Mother of Runes. Might he win this with the 1 mana, the 1 colorless mana?
Yeah, yeah. He's spent 2 mana this entire game so far, and it could be enough. Enevoldsen, I mean, he would be the man for the job. Absolutely. He's put up such an impressive performance yesterday. I got the chance to see some of his games both on and off camera, and I tell you what, he just the cool confidence that he exudes while playing, it's a joy to watch.
He would likely lose to a show and tell here.
Yeah.
But even that isn't a given, because if you put Emrakul into play, it can be raised. As weird as that sounds.
Well, I tell you what, if there's someone to do it, I'm sure you know this story as well, but Thomas Enevoldsen is no stranger to beating Emrakuls. He's beaten this deck, Omnitel, with Death and Taxes, and he's beaten 2 Emrakul attacks of Sneak Attack. 2!
That doesn't always happen, but you can engineer board states where you don't automatically lose to it.
And he did very well to do that. I think went on to win the entire tournament as well after that stellar display. That was in 2012-2013 at a Legacy GP. So here now Molle considering his options. Enevoldsen's options pretty clear to him. Obviously that Sneak Attack still no good thanks to the Phyrexian Revoker that's hanging out just off screen there.
Niels is considering his instance. He has Cunning Wish and Intuition. It seems to me like we might just see Intuition for show and tells, but I'm not sure how well Niels is able to win with Omniscience as long as Thalia is in play.
What's the interaction there? There's still an extra cost of 1?
Yes, The way it works is if you would cast a spell for 0, then Thalia says no, it can't be 0.
Because Omniscience says you cast it without paying its mana cost.
Yeah, that's similar to Force of Will.
Okay, let's have a look here. We've got 6 damage coming across the table, so Molle is going to have to respond in some way or another.
I like the attack with all, just to really force Molle's hand.
Molle down to 4. And we're going to see now Cunning Wish.
Doesn't have the luxury to take things slow.
No, so Cunning Wish, I think we're going to see a Kozilek's Return here, which can then be cast. Yeah, brought to the front of the sideboard there. Molle carefully considering his options. Here it is. It's going to cost him another 2 life to cast, and that Lotus Petal as well.
But it might be just enough.
So obviously Enevoldsen correct in attacking with those Mother of Runes ultimately, as the Mother of Runes pretty stone cold to the return of Kozilek there, given the fact that the damage it does is colorless. See if Enevoldsen has a response here. He does have a Mirren Crusader in hand. Okay, away goes that. Tidy little 4-for-1 there. And that's going to put Molle back in this game, although now 2 of his lands don't do anything.
Exactly. The Engineers don't do anything, but he has 3 islands, 2 of them volcanic, which enables...
Oh, and another Thalia. Wow. Okay, there we go. The other thing we need to point out here is the fact that Sneak Attack is now active again.
Exactly, and this means that Emrakul is going to come down. But on the other hand, it's not immediately lethal.
No, and we've seen Enevoldsen win through an Emrakul, and we might see him do it. We might see him do it again. As we said, he's the man for the job. He goes down to 5, and he's gonna start to rebuild here.
He knows from experience that he doesn't have to concede in this kind of spot. He's maybe only 5%, maybe less, to win this game.
Yeah,
but he can afford to see what his next draw steps.
I'd love to see the repeat performance here.
If you draw 2 lands and some kind of creature or a 1-drop, you certainly can outrace the sneak attack player. With the hand of Molle, he has a spell pierce and a force of will. It does become a bit more difficult.
Well, that's the first piece of the puzzle there. A plains off the top for Enevoldsen.
Niels does have the intuition, so
Okay.
yeah, Thomas is sitting on Swords to Plowshare. So if you intuition here, you should make sure to get Emrakul's and not.
Well, he can only get 2 Emrakul's, seeing he's only got 3 in his deck. Oh no, but they shuffled
it
itself
shuffled
back in. Okay, so certainly.
On 2 live, it would be a mistake to take Grizzlebrand because it could get Swords to Plowshare.
Okay, 3 Emrakul's, and Enevoldsen says, "Yep, that's enough. I'm going to be attacked by the Flying Spaghetti Monster next turn." And so Emrakul, as she so often does, gets the job done. And there we go, 1-0 to Niels Molle. He's on track to keep his unblemished record secure, and Enevoldsen will be digging deep to make sure he can do everything to stop that.
I think the Death and Taxes deck is favored against all kinds of Sneak and Show variants.
All right.
But if you sit there with only the Ether Vials and a single land, there was also no way to get more than 6 permanents into play. That definitely cost Enevoldsen.
And one key card I think that really needs to come into play for Enevoldsen here is Caracas, because through a Caracas it becomes very difficult for the, if not impossible, for the Sneak and Show player to win with these creatures. They have to go with Omniscience and then release the Ants plan on the from the sideboard there.
Yes, although Grizzlebrand still has some merits.
Yeah, some utility in terms of being just a huge walking Yorgmoth's bargain. But all the same, I know Caracas is in the deck. For situations like this because it's so good. We've just had a quick update from our good friend and colleague Rashad Miller, who's pointed out that Caracas is not that good against Emrakul, Zimon. Certainly something that I missed. What's the problem with the interaction between Caracas and Emrakul?
So there's 2 things at work here. If they show and tell in Emrakul and you reveal the Caracas, you bounce the Caracas, it's great. But if you're playing against a sneak attack, you don't really have that window to bounce the Emrakul if the opponent has 2 red mana to spare.
Yeah.
So
because they can, after it's been bounced, they can just put it back in.
And that's because you have to bounce it in the beginning of combat, and that's another window for them to sneak it in.
Yeah. So it's a little bit tricky there. Thanks for pointing that out, Rashad. Wasn't quite cognizant of that. Let's see how the things are going to shake out in the sideboards.
The key though is, however, that you have Omniscience. So if there's a show and tell, even if Enevoldsen is holding a Caracas, he can't rely on the fact that he might be safe from Emrakul, because it could be Omniscience plus whatever. Yeah. Niels wants.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the advantages of this hybrid style deck.
Yeah, I think we are going to be looking more at a lock strategy, Thalia, the mana denial plan, and Revoker is not too reliable, but some game state has to be engineered where that's good. Also, of course, Containment Priest.
Yeah, I wanted to have a look at what's going on in the sideboard. We've got a bunch of different options here for Enevoldsen, and of course the top of that list would be Containment Priest. They're really, really good in situations like this. Other things, we've got Council's Judgment, Path to Exile. Not a huge amount else going on, maybe a Pithing Needle. How about things for Niels Molle? What's he looking at?
He has 3 Blood Moon in the sideboard and the 1 Boseiju. The rest are one-offs. No, that's not quite true. He has a Defense Grid, which is not an instant, clearly. And the rest are one-offs that he can Cunning Wish for. So I think most of these cards will stay in the sideboard. Intuition, Flusterstorm, Pyroblast, Through the Breach.
Although there is the one Pyroclasm as well, which could be brought in. I think that's a pretty safe inclusion against something like Death and Taxes.
Yes, also not a Cunning Wish target. So he does have a few more ways to deal with Thalias and other creatures, but it remains difficult for the Omnitel deck.
So Enevoldsen here, you can see this hand looking a little bit better. A couple of lands, couple of spells. I can see an Ethervile, I can see Cavern of Souls, Richardon Port, Plains. Looks like a Serra Avenger at the back there. And we're going to see Richardon Port power out an Ethervile. That's exactly the turn 1 start that the Death and Taxes deck wants.
Yeah, also already with the 1 and a 2 and a Wasteland to possibly constrain.
Oh, and now a 3 as well. How about that? Mirran Crusader off the top, Zimon.
No, it's Path to Exile, which is a bit surprising. Maybe Path to Exile. Path to Exile is the preferable option to deal with the Grizzlebrand.
Rather than Swords to Plowshares.
Rather
seeing
than
as that
Swords
gives
to
them an extra
Plowshares, yes.
7 life, yeah.
If you would prefer not to
His Mother of Runes off the Etheval.
not to see the Grizzlebrand in play, but maybe you don't have that luxury always.
Ethersworn Canonist also been brought in there. A nice way to combat the sort of the filtering and the cantrips that are going on. Oh, and a Wasteland on the Ancient Tomb. That's a nice hit.
Also, the Canonist just stops all kinds of things that Niels wants to do, like Cunning Wish into something else. Just generating tempo.
Yep.
With things like counter magic, cheap counter magic, or also, for example, show and telling in Omniscience.
I think we're going to see here the Ethersworn Canonist cast. I'm a little surprised to see that because some of the, Enevoldsen knows better than I do, but some of the huge value of cards that we find in the Death and Taxes list, Flicker Wisp, Phyrexian Revoker, Ethersworn Canonist, is the fact that they can be played at instant speed with the Etherval.
Yes, but the Canonist is different than, for example, a Revoker, which has an immediate impact on the board. If you can respond with the Canonist to a spell the opponent played, but you are still more happy to have it in play, usually.
All right. Well, here's an impulse now for Niels Molle. He's going to put those four on the bottom of his, or those three on the bottom of his library here. Maybe they're discussing the fact that impulse tells you to shuffle your library after you put the three on the bottom.
But that's not how it works.
No, that's obviously been errated, but rather humorously, that was what the card said originally. Look at the top three. Look at the top four. Put three on the bottom, then shuffle. But as it is now, Molle are in the middle of resolving this spell. Players in the middle of discussing something about it as well. You can see Enevoldsen's got this Serra Avenger ready to put in, thanks to the other vial.
Another reason to cast the Canonist is, of course, that casting Serra Avenger was not an option.
So away go those three cards, in comes the Serra Avenger. And we're going to go back to Enevoldsen now for his turn 3. Turn 4, I should say. It's another Plains. And in they come. 5 damage, 6 damage.
I think Mother of Runes is just a 1/1 attacker in this matchup.
Yeah, a little eager cadet here. Bit of 9th edition action going on. As we pass it back to Molle. He's got one spell a turn. What are we going to see? Risherton Port tapping down the mountain. Not going to be any sneak attack going on. Cast off that. Have to use the Lotus Petal. Or indeed this Volcanic Island. And it's Pyroclasm. Not a bad one there, cleaning up 2 of those creatures and certainly freeing up Molle to cast more than one spell a turn, but there is still the 3/3 Flying Vigilance here for him to deal with. Enevoldsen, I think he has finally found now a Mirran Crusader. And we're going to port the Volk here. Cavern of Souls, Path to Exile, and I think it's a Mirran Crusader. Or is it Double Path?
It can't be Crusader. He would put the vial up to 3.
Yeah, for sure.
So
there's a Stoneforge Mystic.
Niels Molle appears to have released the ants in his hand, if I saw that correctly. So the red card in his hand there, probably a sideboard measure to deal with Thalia and Revoker, knowing that Thomas is planning to attack with Mother of Runes more often than not.
Yeah. Cavern of Souls there, the play for Enevoldsen, naming human, obviously. So many humans in the deck, Death and Taxes. Here's a Cunning Wish now for Molle. See what he wants to get.
Enevoldsen's hand has not really developed nicely. I don't quite understand why there's so many Path to Exiles.
I think he's brought, it looks like he's brought both, well, there's 2 in the board, and both seem to be in his hand there, yes, having a closer look at that.
I would assume that this means Swords to Plowshares was boarded out, and he just happened to draw both of them, which is a bit unfortunate. Path, of course, also better on your own creatures. if you're getting Pyroclasmed anyway, for example, and you're stuck on mana.
Brainstorm for Molle. He's on 6. Enevoldsen still sitting at 20, but this is the thing about this deck. You don't lose. You lose by very wide margins with Omnitel. It doesn't matter if you're on 20 or 16 or 1 or 400. You're going to lose all the same.
Yes, but Ancient Tomb is certainly a resource that's relevant.
No, for Enevoldsen, his life total certainly a lot less relevant.
For Enevoldsen, it only makes a difference if the most important difference is whether he's on 15 or lower.
Yeah, above or below 15. Yeah, that's a great point there because of the Emrakul attack. Here's Snow and Tell. Snow and Tell. See what Enevoldsen has to say about this.
Don't think he has much to say with
No,
his hand.
not a lot can be done, really. We're going to violin a... oh, that's a nice one. So what's happening here, we're going to violin the Stoneforge Mystic, find the Batterskull, and then the Batterskull can be put into play due to the Show and Tell. So nice little line there, tiny edge that a lot of people might not have seen. Enevoldsen doing really well, but on the other hand, it's it's Omniscience. Here's Release the Ants. So Release the Ants, a card that we don't often see Zimon. It's become a little bit of an edge card in this deck, and it's enough to wrap things up in the favour of Molle.
Because he had an Omniscience on the top of his deck, he just won the clash naturally.
That's not a bad way to do it. So Release the Ants, of course, one of the cards with clash, a card that, as you mentioned, is often brought in to combat tricky board states for Omnitel. It deals 1 damage to a creature or a player. It costs 2. It's an instant. And then you clash, so you can pair the mana costs of the top cards of your library. And if you win, it returns to your hand. Now, with cards like Omniscience, Griselbrand, Emrakul, yeah, sometimes you're going to win that clash.
Also great that it deals with Thalia on the way. Kill your Thalia, clash, and then my Release Dance will not cost more.
So now we flip over now to Alexander Hayne, the Pro Tour champion, playing against Kowalski here. We've got Grixis Delver mirror match, as you can see. And this game well and truly developed here. You can see both players getting on the front foot with Deathrite Shamans and Elementals and Young Pyromancers. A flip Delver, however, for Kowalski.
And a Dark Blast, which is very relevant.
Yeah, nice little piece of tech here, especially in this matchup for sure. So pitching force on the Dark Blast, but that can be dredged back again. So Alexander just sort of treading water here at this stage. Hayne's going to draw. Finds a land. Kowalski not wanting to forget to dredge that Dark Blast back. I think Hayne has the option of exiling it here.
Thanks to Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, I think you take it.
It's costly. You invest effectively 2 mana because you don't generate the mana with a Deathrite Shaman instead. But Dark Blast seems like such a mirror breaker.
Yeah, it seems very, very good against all of these 1 toughness creatures. You know, Baleful Strix, Young Pyromancer most critically, and a freshly cast Delver of Secrets. So I'm surprised that Hayne doesn't want to get rid of it here, despite the cost.
Does he have another black source?
No, the other card in his hand, I think, is the other land is a volcanic island.
I agree with you. I think you don't want to let your opponent draw a Dark Blast every turn. It just seems to be too powerful of a continuous effect. When you look at this board, killing first the Pyromancer and then the Baleful Strix means that you're winning both on the ground and in the air. But Alexander had the same information we had, so he must have had a good reason for playing the Baleful Strix. One reason could also be that you have a relatively good chance of just drawing another black source, giving you the best of both worlds. Although he could have just
Wasteland on the Volk here.
Okay, it looks like Dark Blast is not Alexander's concern here.
Doesn't seem too worried about it. So ships the turn again with 2 lands. Kowalski straightens out his permanents. Very emphatically designed checklist card there to demonstrate the Delver of Secrets. And we're going to see the old Dredgerino happening here. Dredge 3 for Dark Blast to return to the hand. And Kowalski holding, REB.
Yes, Red Elemental Blast. Dark Blast, of course.
Oh, he's just mono blasts today. I can see a Gurmag Angler as well.
And a Young Pyromancer.
Young Peasy also getting it done. Here is the Dark Blast, though, on the Baleful Strix. And we're going to get an elemental token thanks to the Young Pyromancer as well. Away goes the Strix. That leaves the air free for an attack from the Insectile Aberration here. Very interesting to see the texture of the mirror. Really, it's because so often the plan of the Delver deck is to stick an early threat, protect it, or play some oversized beater like a Gurmag Angler. But in this case, here they're really having to grind it out. Is this plan A for the Grixis Delver deck?
I think that we see the air dominance be the deciding factor, because a card like Gurmag Angler is not irrelevant, but just has very little relevance when you generate this many elemental tokens with Young Pyromancer. Also, the 1/2 stats of Deathratch Shaman mean that the 1/1s have trouble attacking.
Yeah, surprising to see just another thing that the Deathratch Shaman is useful for there, holding off these attackers. Here's a Ponder now. Going to see another elemental token. And Alexander Hayne gets to dig a little bit.
Something that's also hugely relevant in these mirrors is how the Deathrite Shaman mirror functions.
Yeah, as we just saw then with the exiling of the land.
You whatever you target, even if it's for mana, the opponent can respond to it and target the same card in the graveyard, so they will get the effect and not you. This also means that if you don't want to lose life to the black activation, you need to hold up your Deathrite Shaman and the black.
And then you can exile it in response. We saw that just happen there with Alexander Hayne trying to exile the Wasteland in Kowalski's graveyard, and Kowalski responded by exiling it himself. Obviously looking to keep Alexander Hayne from gaining that mana there, but now Hayne has the opportunity to exile the Dark Blast and keep his train rolling.
I think Hayne is on a mana denial plan. He wants to...
Oh, and a Wasteland as well.
He wants to Wasteland all of his opponent's lands, and then dredging Dark Blast is not really an option anymore, because you can counter the opposing Deathrite Shaman.
So Wasteland your or is it your Underground Sea? And we're going to see now 1 mana. And again, yes, choosing not to dredge Dark Blast, and it's Gurmag Angler. That's a big hitter. Interesting to see the fact that Gurmag Angler generally is the card of choice for Grixis Delver lists over Tasiga the Banana King. The Golden Fang often being relegated here after the Gurmag Angler is the choice. Any reason for that?
4 mana is just so much in Legacy.
Yeah, for the activation.
The activation is less likely to be relevant than the extra power is of Gurmag Angler, and you don't play too many dredge cards, so you're just very happy to have Gurmag Angler as a very cheap threat in your deck.
Another thing that was pointed out to me yesterday is the fact that Tasiga also cold to Caracas, whereas the and getting your delve creature bounce to your hand. Yeah. Oh, it's backbreaking.
Very, very good point. Yes.
Yeah. So the Gurmag Angler often picked in favour instead here, as you see the zombie fish getting into play on the side of Alexander Hayne. Kowalski, no lands, draws a card. Is it a Delta?
Polluted Delta off the top. Yes.
It is. There it is. Okay. And now the Insectile Aberration coming across once again for 5. That Flip Delver ruling the skies at this point. You mentioned before, Zimon, the fact that these huge delve creatures like Gurmag Angler not very impressive in all situations, especially given all of the tokens in the battlefield.
At least not too impressive if you are under an evasive clock. It's still the biggest thing on the battlefield. Wow.
So Alexander Hayne taking this opportunity to continue to exile Kowalski's lands.
He might have been hoping that Kowalski responds so that he has the upper hand.
And we saw that happen last time, and Alexander Hayne took the opportunity to resolve a Gurmag Angler. while his opponent didn't have any mana.
Yeah, Kowalski finding the land there is not good news for Hayne, who has been on this mana denial strategy, and who wanted to deal with the Delver later when his opponent was basically out of options. And yeah, no attacks with any elementals because Deathrite Shaman is active.
So, Gurmag Angler eats up a token. And here's another Deathrite. Kowalski. Having a think about it. Oh, that's all good. We're back to Kowalski now as he cracks his Delta.
Kowalski really doesn't have to do anything here. He just he's in a winning position. He needs his Delver to survive. He needs his opponent not to gain life or to kill him. But the Deathrite Shaman activations are not racing the Delver right now.
Badlands now here.
So we do see an end of turn Deathrite activation, and Alexander Hayne just scoops. Couldn't respond to the activation.
No, that's right. And after the 2 damage has been done with the Deathrite, we get in a position now where the Insectile Aberration is going to get the job done. So 1-1, things wrapped up for game number 2. Hayne and Kowalski going to have a final look at their sideboards before things finish off once and for all in this match. I know the Pro Tour champion will be hoping to get up on top of him, but Kowalski will be bringing the fight to the Canadian, I imagine. We'll see how things shake out here. Excuse me. Let's have a look at what's going on in these deck lists, shall we? Here, I've got the list of Kowalski and Hayne in front of me. Hayne packing a couple of spicy ones in the board. We've got Winter Orb, Pyroblast, Dark Blast, Ancient Grudge, Painful Truths, Baleful Strix, Pithing Needle, Cabal Therapy, Surgical Extraction, and Flusterstorm. So I imagine some of those cards certainly going to bolster his role in this matchup. Stuff like Flusterstorm will be useful, extra Baleful Strixes to help secure the air, as we saw. That was pretty pivotal in the last game. It is a very similar deck. What's happening on the other side of the fence?
13 different sideboard cards in Kowalski's deck. Baleful Strix, Engineered Explosives, Flusterstorm, Dismember, Dark Blast, a one-off, Grim Lavamancer, Null Rod, Pithing Needle, Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast, Winter Orb, Sylvan Library, and 2 Surgical Extractions. So
a lot of stuff going on there.
Also rather similar, right? And not a large overlap.
Yeah, a lot of overlap between these cards. A card that I really like for Alexander Hayne, I'm not sure about it in this matchup, but more widely speaking, is Painful Truths.
Mm-hmm.
A card that really gets just, raw card advantage over raw card quality is what you want in many situations here. Right now, however, on our screen, you can see an ongoing match between Martin Juza and Andreas Nordahl. Looks like they're in the middle of a judge call here. Miracles facing off against 4-color Loam. So I think the question at the moment is whether the Green Sun Zenith goes back into the library or not, and it seems like it does.
So there was apparently a rules question regarding Rest in Peace.
Well, at no point does it go to the graveyard, does it?
Never reaches.
It's not like Rancor, no. So Juza with that Green Sun Zenith back in his hand.
Back in his library.
Back in his library, I should say. Deathrite Shaman in for 1.
Deathrite Shaman not very good against Rest in Peace.
No. The old Squire. Here is a Chalice of the Void. That's going to be a nice one against Miracles here. Especially when your opponent's draw, I think, was Ponda just there. Flooded Strand. Hits the bin. Well, hits the Exile Zone, I should say. It's going to be Island. Nordahl playing very carefully around Wasteland here. I think we're going to see Counterbalance hit the battlefield now. So Entreat the Angels in the hand of Andreas Nordahl at the moment. Knight of the Reliquary, the draw for Juza. Again, not so hot without the graveyard.
How about the activated abilities certainly relevant?
Certainly still be relevant, sure. So Chalice of the Void, a card that we've seen kicking around the top tables this weekend. Simon Gertzen, pretty well positioned against Miracles on 1, you'd say. Cuts off the Swords to Plowshares, the Ponders, the Sensei's Divining Tops critically.
The top especially.
He's a Badlands for Juza. He's going to be able to cast this Hill Giant here. And down comes the Knight of the Reliquary. Trigger the counterbalance. Going to have to hit a click off the top. No such luck for Andreas Nordahl. You can see in the bottom right corner of your screen there, that is the Alexander Hayne match. So we might head back over there and see what's going on once they've now that they've got underway. And we'll check in with Martin Juza once again as that game continues, as Nordahl draws a Snapcaster Made, a very mighty card with the rest in peace there. But let's check in with Alexander Hayne, the Pro Tour champion, facing off against Kowalski. These guys at 1-1, as you can see. We've already had a bit of interaction going on. Wastelands, lightning bolts. And at the moment, Hayne sits alone with his volcanic islands to Kowalski's 0 permanence.
I'm really intrigued by Hayne's approach to the Grixis Delver Mirror, and I think he is just executing a mana denial plan.
Okay.
Where he cares less about what's happening on the board or in the graveyard. He just wants to make sure that at some point in the game, he's the one who has options available, and the opponent might be in a better board position, but doesn't have the mana or the colors of mana that he needs. So you're aggressively attacking your opponent's lands and Deathrite Shamans.
And here is a land and a Deathrite Shaman for Kowalski. We'll see what Hayne has to say about that. I mean, if what you're saying is true and he's wanting to really attack the mana of Kowalski, these are two different things that he needs to deal with. Lightning Bolt already being cast. Hayne just says that's okay and goes to his next turn. There's a Daze off the top. We're going to see Wasteland again on the tropical island, and a Lightning Bolt on the Deathrite Shaman. Any reason to do that during his turn rather than at the end of Kowalski's?
I mean, reason A would be that he just drew it.
No, he drew the Daze.
So reason B could be that he wants to not make it apparent that he has something else to play in the form of Daze.
And look at this. I was about to say we're going to have a very slow rebuild here after both of these players on turn 4 with no permanents in play. But Gurmag Angler really showing us colours here, coming down as a 1-mana 5/5. Here's a Gitaxian Probe for Kowalski. And at the moment, Alexander Hayne's plan is firing on all cylinders. He's got a Daze, he's got Brainstorm and Volcanic Island, so he's setting himself up for a couple of big turns in the future.
Yes, this is looking really, really nice.
Kowalski, on the other hand, has not found a land. No, just a Wasteland.
He doesn't have the mana needed to deploy a Young Pyromancer. I don't know if he has one. That Dark Blast also looking very weak in the face of a Gurmag Angler.
So Hayne finding a Ponder. He's got a Volcanic Island as well. So he's got plays for days here. We're going to see Ponder first.
Imagine playing the Mirror and you have a Tasigur also. The matchup against Gurmag Angler
is pretty miserable. It's sort of been this arms race to the top, and the Zombie Fish has ended up winning it, holding all the nukes. I can see Young Pyromancer in the top 3. Alexander Hayne doesn't seem interested in that one, however. He's going to draw a different card. It's a Baleful Strix. So baleful. In comes the 5/5. Now Kowalski down to 12. Volcanic Island, and it's your turn as Kowalski has the chance here to try to get himself back in this game. It's not happening. He's holding onto the Wasteland, wanting to deploy some 2-mana spells, but right now it's not. Things are all coming up Hayne. It's Maple Leaves all over the show.
That was a brutal draw by Hayne with the double Wasteland, double Bolt for your 2 Deathrite Shamans. Almost impossible to come back from, and Hayne hasn't had to use his days yet.
But Simon, what I really like about this, the fact that we've actually seen Hayne leverage himself into a position which was exactly the one that you described. At the end of the day, he's the one with more resources, or the ability to leverage those resources. All the cards in the hand of Kowalski is he's hit down to 1, not doing anything.
One life is virtually dead because you are very unlikely to even draw a land that doesn't
doesn't
cost
kill you.
Your life.
Yeah, yep. And there's a handshake from Kowalski. He knows he's been beaten. Alexander Hayne executing a game plan, Simon Gertzen, that I think was, as you said, really crystal clear. Didn't work out in game number 2, however.
But he tried the same plan, which is why I like this so much.
Yeah.
Like he knew what he wanted to do. He knew he was getting beaten down by a Delver. But first, let me deal with your options.
Let's have a look at what's going on here in this match between Juza and Nordahl. We checked in on it earlier. We saw that Rest in Peace shutting off things like the Deathrite Shaman, like the Knight of the Reliquary. And here, Miracles is in a position where somehow they've got through that Chalice of the Void, mate?
Chalice is gone. Also a bunch of cards in Juza's exile zone. It just occurred to me that the term Rest in Peace is usually connected with graveyards, and it's an anti-graveyard card.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of ironic?
No, that's the point. It's as in like it's saying rest in peace, mate. You're not coming back. You can just sit. You can just sit in the graveyard and hang out. You don't have to cut. You know, you don't.
But
have to
it's not. It's not.
It's not technically a graveyard. No, it isn't. I know. Is it the same thing in German? Is it like in Friede Ruhen?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow, your German is.
Still terrible.
I assume you just own a German Rest in Peace.
Oh dear. All right, let's see what Juza can find here.
How about
a Flamecaller? There we go. Look at this, a huge heavy hitting card from Oath of the Gatewatch. Your thoughts on this, Simon Götzen? This is a pretty nice way to secure some kind of...
how about revealing a Terminus with Counterbalance?
Oh no, don't do it, Nordahl. Don't do it to us. Oh, there it is, look at that. Oh, the Flamecaller being countered by the 6-drop in Nordahl's hand. Man, that would have been a huge haymaker there for Juza.
Juza taking a page out of... taking a page out of Raphael Levy's book there.
Oh, yeah. Yep, the
Chandra in all formats and decks.
Yep.
Of all colors.
Of all colors. That's right. Yep, Chandra, best card. So Snapcaster Mage doing an impression of a blue Doomblade there. Bloomblade. As we see Jace brainstorming again. Martin Juza upper game here. Looks like Nordahl's in a commanding position.
How can you continue playing when your Chandra gets counterbalanced?
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. I mean that's why Terminus is played. It's to take care of those errant 6-drops. You want to resolve Inferno Titan against me? Think again, buddy. He doesn't treat the Angels for a million. And Juza's had enough. There we go, packing it up. So Nordahl navigating those waters pretty well there, you'd have to say. Leveraging some good advantage out of his cards, and I think Juza really unhappy to see that Rest in Peace on turn 2.
Yes, and if he deals with the Rest in Peace, sure, it will likely cost him an Abrupt Decay, which he could use in other means. But then his hand is certainly a lot more potent. Deathrite Shaman doing things. Knight of the Reliquary doing more.
Well, I think the interesting thing about this situation here is, as we've mentioned before this weekend, Simon, there are hate cards in Modern, like Stony Silence, Ancient Grudge, that are so powerful, so potent that decks just kind of roll over to them. In Legacy, we do see that in some cases, but Martin Juza isn't just stone cold dead to a Rest in Peace.
No, also Martin Juza's deck is really not a Silver Bullet deck in any kind of way, or a Glass Cannon deck. No. He's playing a very normal game, a very value-oriented game. He can play, for example, turn 1 Dark Confident. Sure, you can cast your Rest in Peace, but I'm generating value on another axis.
And I mean, yeah, that's the important thing. It's playing this axial game where it operates on different, there are different ways that it can try to maneuver a win, and the Graveyard is only one of that. Yeah, sure, there's Life from the Loam, there's Knight of the Reliquary, but these cards are complemented by others that still do other stuff.
Ultimately, the Graveyard is one of the easiest resources to abuse against control, because they need very specific cards to answer them, whereas a Dark Confident can be answered by, let's say, Spell Snare, Soulster Plowshares, Force of Will. Yeah. You can't Force of Will a Life from Dome, at least not continuously.
No, that's a great way of looking at it. Graveyard Conversion is a way to turn some of that card advantage that the blue decks or non-blue decks don't have. Yeah, you're right. Graveyard Recursion is so important here. Martin Juza opening up a hand with Mox Diamond and a Chalice. I think that's a keep.
This looks really nice.
Yeah.
It's land heavy, but that's a good thing with Mox Diamond. And there's even the Life from the Loam interaction with Tranquil Thicket, one of the Onslaught common cycling lands, and you have a Wasteland. So this is another hand which is a bit graveyard dependent, but you also get the Chalice for 1. So
yeah. Discarding Wasteland here, Martin Juza. And we're going to see Verdant Catacombs come down, immediately fetched. And I think we're going to see this turn 1 Chalice. I mean, that's exactly what you want to do on the play. Turn 1 Chalice, shuts off the tops, shuts off the Swords to Plowshares, and really puts Miracles on the back foot.
The discard Wasteland could be a little mind game there to make his opponent less scared of Wasteland. Not sure if it really works. Or if
No, I mean, could have discarded the Windswept Heath. That was the card I saw Juza pull to the front of his hand beforehand.
or
but,
even the Tranquil Thicket, but understandably you want to keep that. I think he just wanted to hide the fact that he was planning to loan back cards anyway. Or is it a Green Sun Zenith?
We're going to see Tranquil Thicket now.
Could be a Green Sun Zenith.
Green Sun Zenith in hand.
So it's not a loan.
And ships. Now, ordinarily, a great play here would be to Green Sun Zenith for a Dryad Arbor, but that's not going to work out so well in the face of that Chalice of the Void.
He could have cast it for 2, but
Oh, of course, and still get the Dryad Arbor, yeah.
he doesn't want a Dryad Arbor in this spot. He wants he doesn't even want a Dryad Arbor in this matchup, really.
Counterbalance.
Not a moving the counterbalance like a slight edge to the graveyard, just in anticipation of an abrupt decay, which is can be a nice trick also to get a read on your opponent. And now it's one of these spots again where you can lose your Liliana to
a random Entreat the Angels.
Blind flip.
Yep. So Nordahl's deck, I mean, Miracle's deck's typically not running a lot of 3-drops. What have we got?
What do you think about a Green Sun Zenith for X=3? That is much less likely to be countered.
I think we're going to see exactly that. Well, I think it's about the same, actually, because we could see a Jace the Mind Sculptor. It's a flooded strand.
There's more 3s, though.
There are more 3s. There's Vendilion Click,
sure.
there's Entreat the Angels, there's Council's Judgment. Usually that's about it in the main deck.
But there can be Monastery Mentor also in the sideboard.
Well, it's going to be a Knight of the Reliquary here. So Juza just slamming the casual 6/6 into play there. 3-mana 6/6 with upside.
Knight of the Reliquary is a heck of a card.
Oh, it's a huge card, mate.
Especially when your opponent cannot cast any kind of Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah, all of the cheap answers are really for this card here have been taken away from Miracles in the face of this Chalice of the Void. Miracles not having access to Abrupt Decay can be pretty crippling. We're going to see Liliana of the Veil come down. Nordahl with another opportunity. Is it Entreat? It's a Tundra. So Martin uses deck firing on all cylinders, you'd have to say, Zimon.
Yes, with the really good draw. It didn't have the loam that I saw, but the Green Sun Zenith is also a nice way to get on board. And loam can still be drawn later and be absolutely amazing.
Be a great value engine, especially with Fertile Thicket. We saw that yesterday. User able to. Oh, here's an actual literal counterspell actually.
I want to see what Juza has to fetch up here.
Wasteland.
Okay, just continuous wastelands now threatened. You also make sure that there is no terminus coming your way. But Andreas also with the planes, like these 3 basics you always see from the Miracles players.
So User now begins his next turn. Punishing Fire, the draw for him. So he's got a Grove already, Zimon. So that's a nice little engine he can get going as well.
Yes, but it's also a very slow way to ping your opponent for 1.
In for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage there. And Nordahl down to 10.
Yes, and that's great because it's a 2-turn clock if Punishing Fire resolves. And if it doesn't, it's also not a problematic thing.
Jace the Mind Sculptor now. We're immediately going to see an unsummon here. Nordahl has a think about it.
Brainstorm is valuable because you do get the Terminus next turn. And you're holding 3 dead cards, but I think you are so likely to die if you do this.
So Nordahl at the moment considering whether it's going to be a Brainstorm or an unsummon. It's going to be unsummoned, so Martin User has to being forced to pick up his Knight there. We're going to see Jace finished off by that Punishing Fire, so that's a nice little play there from User as he brings back the Punishing Fire as well. So Nordahl buying himself a little bit of time, but all the same, you'd have to say that things aren't looking good for him. Here's 3 mana. It's going to be Knight of the Reliquary once again.
Wow!
And Nordahl not even bothering to reveal.
He knew it was safe, because the Punishing Fire wasn't counted because the reveal was Scalding Tarn. Nordahl had no way to rearrange his library. So Juza got everything he wanted out of this exchange.
Yeah, he's done really well here with Nordahl going down to 3 now.
And now Nordahl, I think, is looking at a really difficult spot. He has
reveals his hand, and it's full of cards that cost 1. So Martin uses turn 1 Chalice of the Void. Simon Gertzen is enough to get him over the line.
And he couldn't fetch because Punishing Fire would have killed him.
Yeah. Yep, so that's Scalding Tarn also being a Blankski. So Martin User doing really well in combating blue card advantage by just blanking the cards in his opponent's hand. So well done to Martin User. Moves on to 9-1. Nordahl will be fighting for a good spot to finish here at GP Prague. Thanks for joining us for round number 10. Stick around, everyone, because there's more Legacy action coming your way in just a few moments. We'll see you very soon.